Good afternoon, everybody. It's Taz from the Active Wellbeing Society here. I'm on a very special walk today for Black History Month, and it's the Ida B. Wells Walk. I'm at Edgbaston Community Centre, and I'm at a very special point here, which I'm going to turn the camera towards now. So I hope you can all read this. This is the plaque, the blue plaque here for Ida B. Wells. You can read the human rights activist, and today's special walk is all about Ida B. Wells and some of the other black important figures against slavery and lynching that took place here, anti-slavery as well. So I'm going to introduce our guests today who are going to join me on this walk. Walk's going to be roughly about 45 minutes. It's all outdoors, so we apologise for the wind today, but we'll try and speak up loudly, and let's crack on. Let's take a moment also to share this video. So down at the bottom on the left hand side there's a little share button for those viewers who are watching live. You can share this video on, and also those who are going to watch this after on demand, they're pre-recorded, they can also share this on, so we get a lot of coverage and everyone gets to learn about Ida B. Wells. Thank you. I'll introduce you to our first walk leader.
Good afternoon, my name's Marcia Dunkley from Black Heritage Walks Network. We also have Dawn, Carr and
Hi.
Gary. We're all part of Black Heritage Walks Network.
Hello again.
And thank you very much for joining us on this wonderful, the weather's wonderful, the tour is fantastic, because the Ida B. Wells Walk is a walk that is enriched and steeped in history because of who she was aligned to and who actually invited her here as part of her human rights campaign. So Ida B. Wells was born 1862, died 1931. She came over here 1893 and 1894 by the request of Catherine Impney, a poignant anti-slavery human rights activist who was a prominent member of the Quaker Society. Now, Catherine Impney, as well as Ida B. Wells, really needs to be shouted about because she is the first person that started Britain's first anti-slavery journal called Anti-Caste, which was published in 1888. She was also a staunch vegetarian, human rights activist, and created the Society for the Universal Brotherhood and also the Society of Friends. Yes, so what we'll do now is we'll take you along the route to show you the prominent achievements that Ida B. Wells made, and also along this walk other aspects of the anti-slavery movement.
Brilliant. So once again, the blue plaque here is at Edgbaston Community Centre, Woodview Road. Please come and start your virtual walk if you're following our footsteps. This is the place to start. There's parking here, there's a cafe here as well. And Gary, do you want to say anything?
Yeah, so I just wanted to add for those people who want to also know, so Ida B visited a house that stood on this site, so you won't see the house here anymore, but like this was the road. Through extensive research we found out that this used to be known as Gough Road, and this house here would have been number 66. So we've had to do a lot of research. Remember last week I told you there's a lot of research to be done. So the city looked a lot different when she came here, but this was the site that we found. The blue plaque was put up in memory of her as well. She was also here along with Frederick Douglass, the famous anti-nationalist as well, on a book tour. So this area is a hotbed for activists, as you'll find out as you walk further on.
Fabulous.
Okay.
I'm also going to introduce a very special guest today who's joined us. So Councillor Wells has joined us on this tour. Tell us the reason why you're here today.
Well, to be quite honest, I'm here to learn, and I've learnt a lot already, and it's just fantastic to be in the presence of somebody who's made such a big impact, not just on this area, but on the whole country as well, and indeed on the whole anti-slavery movement. Thank God for the Quakers, thank God for Ida, let me get her name right, Wells Barrett,
Yeah.
and it's just fabulous to be in the same place with her, and I'm going to learn a lot today, and it's sunshine, well not quite sunshine, but the weather is very, very kind to us so far.
Brilliant. Thank you very much. So off we go.
Okay. So one of the things that we'll also tell you about Ida B.
Oh, yeah, if you, yeah.
I can talk loud if that's okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, hold on.
Just in case, because
Oh,
when we start social distancing.
Yeah. Okay.
So as we're just getting mic'd up, I'm just going to show you where we are. So your Oasis school is just there, and we're at the entrance of Edgbaston Community Centre in Edgbaston. So
Can you hear me? Oh, you headphones?
You've got a big voice.
Oh, you happy? Yeah, that's not a problem.
Just in case.
Yeah.
And when we start walking, we do social distancing.
Yeah. And that's what.
So viewers, as I was just about to mention there, so I'm getting dressed as we talk, but you know these things. So Ida B. Wells, she stayed at a house that was here. Edgbaston was a very hotbed of anti-slavery activity. And the reason why we brought you here is when we look at Edgbaston, we tend to consider either the Rotten Park Road side of Edgbaston or the leafy suburb side of this part. And the reason we brought you here is because this house, if you can think back to the time, the Lunar Society and people from here at that time, they all lived in this part of Edgbaston. It was an affluent area. It was considered that there were no tower blocks built here at the time. And again, as you'll see, we're going to see blue plaques to a lot of host of people and names that you're going to recognise. This isn't new. This is information about people that you'll know and understand. I don't want to share them yet. So Ida stayed here, but while she was doing her tour, she actually spoke in Birmingham twice. So you may be walking through town and see somewhere called Needless Passage in town.
Yes, I know
Now,
that.
everybody's always thought, what is needless about that passage? Well, what's ironic, you can't see now, there used to be a big hall there where people would come and speak, and that's where she went to speak. So you can imagine being based here, horse and carriage into the city centre, Needless Passage, which has been there, research it, and then she would have actually spoke there several times and visited other anti-slavery people in the area as well. So we're just going to turn right and make our way up this road as well. So, if you want to, so I'll go behind and I can speak loud from behind.
Yeah, I'm alright.
Yeah.
Carry on.
Yep. So again, we're just going to make our way from here as well. When we get up to the top, we can look at some of the houses and you can see the change in use. You can see the school behind us and this new housing estate as well. But the whole area, if you look at, you know what, I'm trying to talk and not give away names before we get to the top of the road.
Yeah.
But like, if you can imagine, we mentioned the Quakers as well. So the Quakers are very heavily involved in this particular short walk that we're doing, simply because of their stance and where they came in against slavery. We're also going to visit one of their houses. We can't go in, but we're going to visit one of their centres as well. And then we're going to look at a few blue wall plaques along the way, talk about what was going on in this very short area. And as you know, Edgbaston's quite a large area, so when we've created a Black History Month walk here, what we've done is looked at like all sorts of effects that have happened through the time, looking at Black history in this particular area. And you know, we've got 8 walks through the city. This was one of my favourites because it's so enriched. I mean, we can go right the way back to like 1700s and looking at this area and its connection to blackness as well. So, what's the next stop we've got? Does anyone want to say?
No, you go.
So we've got a short walk to around the corner as well. So one of the things that happened as well, my partner Dawn just mentioned there about the area and anti-slavery. What you've got is a lot of the women of the industrialists at the time, so the Lunar Society, Matthew Bolton, James Watt, their wives were considered to be the housekeepers. You know, the ladies that lunch, you know.
Yeah.
And what many of them come to find that when they were hearing about the atrocious stories about slavery coming back to them at these high genteel dinners they would have, they wanted to form an anti-slavery league because they thought it was abhorrent that you know, this treatment was going on of humans as well. And you'll see some of the people who were involved in, they actually travelled to the West Indies quite a lot. So this isn't just people thinking, oh, I've seen some pictures and it's terrible. This is people that are like, you know, actually in the heart of it, and there are going to be some very controversial contradictions. I love doing contradictions, but we have to tell both sides of the story. And one person we'll talk about again in particular, he was at the height of it because one, he was actually, you know, he was saying he was part of the anti-slavery movement, but he was involved in slavery in actually creating and manufacturing pieces of material that were used and were really important in actually, you know, trading for slavery. So, but I don't want to share that. We'll get to that in shortly. We're just going to cross the road here safely.
So we're just crossing over Charlotte Road from Woodview Road. So those viewers who are following this, like I said, if you're going to retrace these steps, just keep these landmarks in mind. You can see some of the beautiful properties here.
And this is exactly what I want to point you for. That's exactly what I'm going to point to that. These are the type of houses that you're looking at that you can see in the area. And these are the houses that the ladies, so you can imagine somebody who's a manufacturer trader, they would live in this house. They would have the drive, and you know, you've seen the films Pride and Prejudice. These sort of houses we're talking about. But the women who lived in these houses had nothing else to do apart from find campaigns that kept them occupied as well. So this whole area is actually filled with houses like this. All right, don't turn around because obviously they're new.
No, they're the new ones.
So we're just going to come to this next house here.
Ah, I can see a blue plaque.
Exactly. So as well as talking about black history, we're also going to show you the history of the area in itself as well. And we always talk to people about coming out. When you walk, remember I said it last week, look around you, explore the area. So this house here, we know that like the Birmingham Civic Society, again another organisation that have been really good at putting up heritage in the area, created this blue plaque for Joseph Southall, artist and craftsman. Nothing really to do with black history, but what we're trying to point out to people is that there's history all around, and where we see these blue plaques, it's worth sometimes just stopping for a minute and just taking stock and steed of what the history is, because whilst this blue plaque doesn't relate to what we're talking about today, there's one up the road that everybody will recognise the name. So thanks, we'll just carry on up the road here.
Yeah, I'll just zoom into that one so those you can see Joseph Southall.
You okay? Follow?
Yeah, come and see that. Did you know that was here?
Listen, my ignorance is colossal. And I hope to have got it completely sorted by the end of this walk. Yeah?
Brilliant, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
So hopefully we can get
Just walking on the pavement.
get some of the other councillors, get Preet Gill involved in the next walk as well, for her ward.
Yeah, she'd love it.
So you can see some of the buildings behind, very grand buildings here. And it's a lovely tree-lined road as well. So a lot of history here. Yeah.
And a lot of the people who lived here, as Gary was saying, the women who lived here, they were often part of the suffragette movement. And Ida B. Wells was also a staunch feminist and a suffragette. She had quite a complex life. When she was little, both of her parents died. She was left to kind of bring up her brothers and sisters. And whilst doing that, she trained to be a teacher, and trained to be a teacher and did some teaching. Did also odd jobs to keep the family going. And she also, wrote. She was a journalist, so she wrote a newspaper as well as part of what she did. And how she got into activism is she had a friend called Tom Moss. So a friend called Tom Moss was a local businessman who used to run the local shop. So he wasn't a vagrant or anything like that. He was a very respected businessman in the area, and he was lynched by white people in the area for no particular reason. And she was absolutely devastated because this was a friend of hers. He was a very prominent entrepreneur. It was such a waste of a life. And so she then embarked on this campaign against lynching and wrote lots of papers about lynching, and also came over to Birmingham to join with the suffragettes, to join with Catherine Impney, to look at their campaign and see how that can be used in terms of a campaign for anti-lynching.
There's another one here I've just spotted.
Her as well. Yeah.
Is this part of our walk?
This
or is
isn't
it
actually part of our walk, but again, we just wanted to show you the look of the house. Remember, we're looking and talking about heritage. We're looking at these houses here. And myself, we were just talking in amongst ourselves in the background, talking about how everybody was complicit in slavery at the time. We know that this black slavery compensation scheme only finished in 2015. Remember the infamous tweet that the HMRC actually tweeted out, "Hey, we've cleared our slave compensation bill in 2015." So everybody's had a part to pay for that. I mean, everybody's been paying it back without realising that that's what it actually was about. So what we're saying to you is, as you walk, open your eyes, because it's more entrenched in the history than you actually think. So we'll just keep moving up to the next point.
Tell you what, sugar has a lot to answer for.
Yes, sugar and coffee. Yeah.
Well, I've literally just come up for lecture because, I told you I was doing Black Studies, and we were just talking about the mercantile system, which now all starts to really feed into what we're talking about. And what we're talking about is how slavery, we have to understand slavery. Instead of just saying it's slavery, we need to actually work out what that slavery is and how it came to be. And what we're talking about is this battle between Europe. Sugar's about Europe. It's about, France and Germany and Britain going and fighting for these other countries to become rich and profitable. And this is what we see in this area again, down this road here. Look at the great houses. You've probably never even been as far as Edgbaston.
I haven't been down this street, so.
Yeah. So we'll just carry on up. Because we're short for time, we've got to keep moving.
Yeah. So I have been up this street here because this used to be part of the Birmingham half marathon route.
Oh, so you've run
So I've run up it. Well, I've not run. I wouldn't say a run. I've crawled up it in the past.
I can go one better. I think I might have watched you doing that. I chose to stay at home. So again, we've only got a couple of stops on the shore, but Edgbaston's a much wider area. We've got a story of 600, or should I actually say, 700 African American women who were based here during the Second World War. A story that most people don't know about. So if they were staying here for about 3 months, they must have interacted with the local community, but yet nobody talks about the story. We found it about 4 or 5 years ago. And I won't talk about it because it's not part of another walk that we have. Remember, we've got 8 walks. Hint, hint.
So watch this space for the other ones, yeah.
So the 6888 is one to take part in. That's a really good walk, actually, which is about the women's battalion. And there's so much here in Edgbaston, isn't there? Yeah,
there's so much more. We're very shortly going to make. So we've had a nice gradual. You can look at the hill there.
Yeah, I can see that my heart rate is gone high. How are you feeling, Councillor Wells? Are you all right?
Well, where's the oxygen tank?
Well, we'll have a break at the top. Marcy's got a big smile.
So as you can see, it's a really deceptive walk because we've only just gone, half a mile, but it's uphill.
Yeah.
Everybody's now out of breath, so I'm glad it's not just me. So we're just going to stop on the corner here. The next person we're going to talk about is also at the end of the tour as well, so we'll just very briefly cross over it. The next one here, isn't it? So we haven't really got to this church yet, but we need to do some research on this church here behind us.
Yeah.
Which is a beautiful church. I do believe they've turned it into houses inside, or flats inside now.
Inside, yeah.
Oh, right.
So, I should have showed you where the signboards were just there. But this is an old church that, we're not sure. Further into Edgbaston, where the old Edgbaston cricket ground is, now that's a really part of history because that's where one of the first battles for Edgbaston took place, and it was to do with Cromwell and the Roundhouses. The church became a bastion between the differences where they wanted to split, and there was an actual war inside the church, and the people of the local area barricaded themselves inside the church because they didn't. But we'll go into that further.
Yeah, that's lovely.
And they're still there now.
Yeah. And again, that's one of the oldest churches probably in the country, in Birmingham, definitely. We've got this church here, and we've got 2 in very close proximity again as well, so as you can see. So in order to understand, we were talking about slavery. People are really, at the moment, they're becoming triggered by the fact that we want to talk about slavery as well. But it is really much more, in our DNA than we think, or some people are prepared to admit and talk about. The only way to do this is open conversations, honest conversations about who, what, why, where, and then that will give us a total understanding. Those who deny that, the country was built on slavery, Edgbaston as a leafy, gentle area, just 1-2 miles across that way, we've got the Jewellery Quarter of Birmingham. Now, most people like to throw up a really glamorous story of the Jewellery Quarter. It's one of our great areas in creative hubs. But again, it also played a very important part in how Edgbaston was built. So remember I said we're going to keep going backwards and forward. If the Jewellery Quarter was the workshop of Birmingham, those who reaped the rewards of that would have lived in this particular area here. Galton is a name we're going to talk about shortly on the tour. I can tell you about him. Lived in Great Bar, but his workshop was in the city centre, but he had connections here as well. All the members of the Lunar Society had connections here as well. We try to think of them being very primitive, very, it was the olden days, very primitive, very time. These were very astute people for their time. If they were in today's society, they'd be entrepreneurs today. So we have to look at it in that context as well. Now the corner we're going to come up to here is talking about Joseph Sturge. Now we're going to see a statue further on in the tour, but for most people they've probably seen that statue or driven past it all their life, not realising there was a statue there. And that was unveiled quite a while ago. But Sturge and his family, he had a large family. that were based in the area as well. So he had his children, his wife, he married twice. His children became activists as well. He was a very big activist as well. And as we get to the corner here, we can see where these flats are now. His house was actually based on this road here, Wheelies Road. And again, some of the members of the public may have seen this road, driven down it, thought nothing of it as well. So we'll just wait till we get to the corner and continue there.
Okay, brilliant.
The councilman as well mentioned, as we were talking earlier, about Quakers. The Quakers play a massive part in this story as well. Yeah, so thank you for bringing that up as well.
Yeah.
But as you'll see, they play a huge part in this area. How far back? I was reading just before we got here, 1762. You know, and also at the start, it's the start of the Chartist movement. So it's the start of the Quaker movement in its different disguises before it becomes known as the full Quaker movement. And is then really involved in trying to change. So we're not going to walk all the way down to the spot, but so we'll just get on the corner here so we're not in the way. So this is Wheelies Road here. As I mentioned, I talked about Joseph Sturge. He had a house which no longer stands, but was on this particular road here as well. There's a blue plaque to it today as well. So if you're on this tour, walk down, take a look at the building, and you can see his blue plaque there as well. I'm going to hold off talking about...
So it's just down here?
Just down here, Wheelies Road.
Wheelies Road.
Yeah, so we're only doing a shortened version today, so it'd be quite a walk to go down there and come back again. So, yeah, it's just to know that he's down there.
That's good to know.
Some of our health walks are really grueling, even though they are health walks, but like if you get carried away in trying to take in the nature of the tour, next thing you know, you walk 3 miles without realising it. So we're just going to cross this busy road. Yep. So you want to do the next spot? Are you the break?
We're on St James Road now, and we're heading towards the Five Ways direction and up this road again. Some more examples of the lovely buildings here. This one's a roundhouse.
I know.
What a beautiful building.
Beautiful building.
Yeah.
Isn't it? It's really quaint, isn't it?
Cost a few bob.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Prime spot as well. And some of the newer apartments on the right here.
So Taz, I don't know if you can just point your camera over the wall.
Yeah.
Can we see on?
I won't be able to see from my thing what you can see.
So, I don't know if the viewers can see it. I just wanted to point out, because this is a train track that runs from the city centre. Again, it's somewhere we don't see, or if you're on that track, I only realised the other day that there used to be a station on the next street further across that served the university. So sometimes we see like these brick walls here.
Yeah.
And you can see, I mean, on this one here, it's not so much. But where the new wall is, that may have been a station down here as well. So I definitely know there was one further across in Edgbaston. And that came from further research. So when we...
Oh, here we go.
Here.
So that's just telling us where we are here on the road as well.
Okay.
But again, this is investment in the city. This is one of the tracks that was built out. This is one that goes out to Selly, Five Ways, and then on beyond the city centre. Who knows where else? And it's interesting now because when we're talking about history again, we're now seeing that we're trying to reinstate some of those very stations we got rid of years back. As with the tram line, so the tram line that used to run down Bristol Road.
That's been reopened.
Yeah.
And it's interesting, like with 2020 and this COVID pandemic, we're now moving to a stage where we need to open up these networks in order to kind of get around. And you know, with the green, the clean air scheme as well. You know, this area is part, isn't it, in the radius of the congestion zone. So you won't be able to drive down here in the future. So you might as well join our walk.
You see it? All for the better. Coming out on your feet and exploring it is a much better way.
Yeah.
You get to see the blue plaques and you learn about the history.
Blue plaques, come on our walk to get from A to B.
Yeah, so we're going to do this one next and then just swing around.
No, but we'll go to Quaker.
George Cadbury. Oh,
So I
yeah.
think you've
So who's
heard of
talking?
George Cadbury.
Dawn's talking.
Yeah. So do you want to just like,
Yeah.
So,
I'm going to zoom into the blue plaque first and then... So George Cadbury, chocolate manufacturer, there you go, lived here, 1872 to 1881.
So just a few more from the Bourneville itself. We can see again the period of the house, beautifully kept as well at the moment as well.
Beautiful gardens, yeah.
You're probably thinking, so all right, there's a Cadbury, there's a chocolate factory, what's that got to do with the Black Heritage Walk? Well, the Cadbury family, as we know, built the family, did chocolates as well, had a social aim and ambition. But what's really interesting is where their cocoa came from. Obviously, we're talking about chocolate as well. So we know that they went to the Caribbean. And one of the things I'm going to skip back to is 1914, during the First World War. Obviously, there were Commonwealth troops who were involved in the war as well. That's a story that we've been telling recently as well. But what's interesting is during that time, Cadbury's actually created what was a metal tin box. I'll try and get a picture up on my iPad after to show you. And it was a box that they gave to all the troops at Christmas. And it said to the troops from Cadbury's, and it was talking about the fact it had chocolate from Trinidad and Tobago as well, Guyana as well, all these different countries that were involved in the war. But also the fact that these guys would have received these comfort boxes of chocolate from their home countries, which weren't really talked about. So again, you probably look at ours, nothing to do with it, we've researched it and we found these things as well. So I'm going to pass you on to Marcia, who's going to talk a bit more about Cadbury.
Well, the whole thing of Cadbury, as much as Bourneville is down the road, this just gives you an idea of how rich and affluent this area actually is. And for Ida B. Wells to be invited here, she must have been thought of and regarded very, very highly. You know, she wasn't invited to somewhere that was run down. And very, very affluent. So she was regarded very highly in terms of, we need to place her in an area where there are other like-minded people, academics, scientists, manufacturers. And for somebody who was black in those days and female to be given that sort of accolade, she was highly regarded in this country. And it just goes to show, even back then, we were making a difference and we still are now.
Thank you. Very interesting.
go across the road to the Quaker Meeting House.
Yeah. So the Quaker Meeting House is here. Crossing the road safely. Busy road, so if you're out, just be careful if you're retracing the steps. But do come and see George Road here, where you got
Safe to cross.
George Cadbury's house. So there's a lovely bench here for you to sit and take in the views, but behind here is the Quaker Meeting House. You can just see through the hedges there. So this is of interest, a Quaker Meeting House. So
Yeah, so this Quaker Meeting House again was built, it was actually quite unusual in the fact that if we can't actually really, I'm just
Should
thinking,
we walk round?
Should we
this
walk
way?
round?
I don't know if you could just put the camera over the top of it.
yeah, yeah. So I don't know if you can see through there.
And the reason why I'm pointing that out, this Quaker House again sits at the heart of all the people who became involved in anti-slavery as well. But also it was unique in itself, so there's been several Quaker houses in the city, and then this one was specifically built by an architect called William Henman. And like they said, it was quite unusual because like it's a brick building. Here you go, you can have a look at the style of the building again, and it just gives us context of, you know, what was going on. So again, money's coming into the city. They actually moved out the city because they had several meeting halls in the city. They always became overcrowded because people were joining the movement as such, and eventually decided to move out to here, into this building, and had this building purpose built. And they were saying it was quite unusual for the way that they actually went about doing that again. So it puts it into context again, Edgbaston, not what we think it is. I always say there's three parts to Edgbaston, which I won't say on camera. But, you know, there's the leafy part, the suburb, and the middle class part as well. Wide diverse, wide mix of people from different heritages. Also looking after the Second World War, people started to settle in that particular area as well. And it's got quite a wide mixture area for one of Birmingham's areas. I think if you look at it on the official stats, they're saying it's quite wide dynamic, employment's low in the area in today's circumstances. And even if you look at the developments in the area, you can see it's kept to a very specific time. It's just pity that we didn't do it across the whole of Birmingham in a way.
Yeah.
So
I'm just going to quickly go in there
Yeah,
and
go on
just
then.
make a quick video. Would you like to
Yes.
come in and see?
Yeah.
you don't come back in 5 minutes.
So there's a date at the top there and a lovely entrance to the Quaker Meeting House.
I mean, what you've got here literally is living history because it has stayed the same as the day it was built. Look at all that
Look
art.
at that,
I
yeah.
mean, this craftsmanship you don't get these days. You just don't. And it stood the test of time. That's when you know craftsmanship's very, very good. The gardens, I'd imagine, I've been told that there are some plants in here that are actually brought over from the Caribbean. And so again, that goes to show you the influence that we've got. We've got a Quaker house and gardens here. But if you were to come into it, I'm just trying to see if we're able to, without setting off an alarm. Given the timing, I'd like to research what these plants were, but I've heard that there are plants that flower in the summer, and it literally is like a tropical garden. Yeah. But the key features, it's exactly the same, and that's what's beautiful. So we are looking at living history here.
Now that red one,
Yeah.
Yeah, that
Yeah.
one's striking colours on
is
that one.
that Poncietta? No.
I have a feeling. I have a feeling. And there's been many times.
gorgeous, isn't it?
If you look at it, as it stands out amongst the green plants, it's beautiful. And this time of the year as well. But it just goes to show you how well this garden's looked after, because these plants are still thriving.
Yeah.
Yes, beautiful.
And that tree there, that's looking at, that's been there a long, long time.
It has.
And look at that grand.
I mean,
Absolutely straight.
yes. I mean, much of Edgbaston is still what I would call living history, has not changed. And it's almost like an outside museum.
Beautiful. And just the building behind here as well, you can see out.
It's a hidden gem.
Hidden gems, yeah,
Edgbaston is.
absolutely, hidden gems. So I highly recommend you come out and do this walking tour and retrace these steps. And this is the Quaker Meeting House, Edgbaston, just here behind Gary.
And again, what we're doing here, listeners, this is a bit of a double whammy here, because we're giving you the black history that's like interlays into buildings. You've probably driven through this road to cut through, to cut traffic out 5 ways roundabout. So you can see what you're driving past in a day. It's not even hidden history, it's right in front of you. You're just driving past with eyes closed.
Yeah.
So, yeah. And like I said, we're now levelling off the walk as well. So we haven't actually gone that far, and you've seen how much we've seen. So when you see blue plaques as you're walking, stop and Google them and see what they're about. It will tell you a lot more about it. Now, on the full walk, we go into a lot more about black history. There's so much more. We can start to give you real in-depth stories and people involved. We talked about Ida B being here. That's because her blue pack was put up only, I think, 18 months ago. Was it 2 years ago, Dawn?
Yeah.
It was about 2 years ago.
Yeah.
But in doing that, we also connected with the organisation that started out as, it's actually still in its current guise, an original organisation that was started by the women, and that's the anti-slavery organisation. So its modern concept actually started back by the ladies, the genteel ladies we'll call them, of the area that were anti-suffragettes. There were suffragettes, there were anti-slavery campaigners as well. Other names that you're going to hear us talk about, the British and foreign anti-slavery programme. And the reason why, look at the names of the roads as well. These roads, they're not... they're not... There's actually a sequence to the road that we reveal on the tour. But if you notice, Charlotte Street, St James Road,
Frederick Road.
you're starting to see that these are, purposely named road. And again, look at the properties.
Yeah,
So I've driven down the back of this road here, and it's like there's an amazing estate down there that you just wouldn't believe is actually there. Just really nice houses again, but and as you can see, because it's leafy, it's nice. It's an area where you can come out and walk. We've got the trees changing colour, so that autumn feel. It's really nice, pleasant walk. So we're just going to make our way up to the next
So you
stop.
can see behind Gary is the New York Hotel. So you know where we are now. We're heading towards Five Ways, Frederick Road.
Just making sure no cars.
We did have
And the blue plaque unveiling plan, didn't we, for the 6 888?
Yeah, as well.
Which is going to be at King Edward's. Do you want to talk about that?
Yeah, so as again, we talked about these women that came in the Second World War, absolute pioneers, because America and its colony guys at the time had black service personnel that were actually fighting during the war. They decided that they wanted to bring black women in as well, but they didn't want to send them overseas. And then what they did, they sent them to the UK to help sort mail. The American mail system was in it was absolute shambles. Literally, they were 2 years behind because the war had advanced so quick in some parts. The mail was 2 years behind where the soldiers were. So they brought these women in, and when they came here, they were taken to see this mail that they had to sort. And there's some contradiction again about it. Some say there were 6 warehouses full of stuff, and somebody said there's a lot of mail. It was 2 years worth of backlogged mail. They were brought to Birmingham specifically to sort it for them. They did the job in 3 months. But whilst they were here, they were engaged with the local communities as well.
And that was further down that way by Priory.
Yeah, so some of you may have heard of King Edward School. They're actually based there, and we've been working on that for the last sort of 4 or 5 years. Some of the actual members of the current US forces came here for an unveiling. Probably about 2 years ago. We had a dinner. Birmingham City Council were involved. They invited the ambassador to the UK. He came up as well and handed the plaque over. So the unveiling hasn't been done yet because of COVID. It was meant to happen this year. I think it was the 14th of February. So as soon as COVID was left us and we were able to get back to normal, look out for the details, and we'll be sharing that with people as well again. But again, another part of Edgbaston, imagine 800 to 900 African American women based in the area going about their duties and interacting with the public and the citizens of Birmingham at the time as well.
Yep. 2 years worth of work in 3 months.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Bring them back.
And let's get people looking again around. You can see this was the old HSBC Bank.
Yeah.
Which actually, I don't know what that's going to be turned into now. Not that flats. In fact, yeah, Mercer Real Estate, so that's going to be flats definitely. But again, for those who know, Birmingham again was at the heart of banking. So the first municipal bank in the UK itself was set up in Birmingham, which is the one on Broad Street that we talk about as well. So we really start to see how this city plays such a unique part in the Industrial Revolution, but also in history. So we're just going to make our way down to here now.
Okay.
You keeping up, Councillor? Yeah.
Are you okay? Yeah. Good. Is everyone watching online at home able to keep up with the conversation? It is a bit windy, just started to rain a little, but we're going to carry on with our walk. Any questions at home, the viewers watching this on Facebook, if you want to put any questions in the comment section, we can address them to Dawn, Marcy or Gary, and Councillor Wells as well, our special guests as well. So anything you'd like to ask, please do put it in the comments. We're on Calthorpe Road, heading towards... Another blue plaque here. Washington Irving from the Civic Society here. Calthorpe Road, number 12. Lots of blue plaques.
Significance in the city. So we're making our way over to, there's a statue over there that we want to kind of end at, which is a statue of Joseph Sturge. So he was like a prominent abolitionist in the city. And the reason why we wanted to focus on it is because there's been a lot of negative press around Black Lives Matters and statues and all sorts of things. And we know what happened in Bristol with them having to take down the statue there.
Yes.
And don't get me wrong, here in Birmingham we have our own fair share of bad characters who've been made to be honourable within the city. But let's not forget Joseph Sturge, who did do something really good, in terms of supporting, the black community here in Birmingham and worldwide.
Yeah, so great people of history who've made significance in the anti-slavery campaign for Birmingham and all over the world, really. So it's getting a bit busier here. We're nearer the city, so we might have to talk a bit louder. Hope you can still hear us. We'll try and get the camera as close as possible safely to our walk leaders here, our tour guides. So we reach 5 ways of the clock tower here, and by the Costa and the Marriott here.
So the statue is here, just in front of the Marriott. And again, I suppose people have passed here a million times and never noticed this statue. The statue was actually lovingly restored, but there's still a lot of work that needs to be done to it. We just cross the road safely.
So here's a statue ahead. And there he is, the man himself, Joseph Sturge.
So here we are. There's an awful lot of detail to take in here, Taz, and I hope you can take it in.
Okay, let's start. Yeah, let's start for the first point. Yeah. So a sign.
Here we are. Joseph Sturge. So he was from the Gloucestershire area. We can see he lived in Monument Road in Edgbaston, but he worked tirelessly in the abolition of slavery across the whole British Empire. So we're not just talking about Birmingham. He had a great concern for the poor, and in particular making sure that the poor had places to wash and have a bath, also places where they were able to go to school, and you can see quite interestingly here there's a picture of Joseph Sturge with his hand on a little black girl here. Can you see?
Yes.
Yeah, and there's lots of symbolism in this this actual statue. You've got a woman with a lamb there.
Yeah, I can capture the lamb. The lamb, the woman with the statue.
You've got the woman with the lamb. Then you've got here on this side. It's a woman with. They are two black boys.
Ah, okay.
So
One's on her shoulder,
yes,
and the other one is like she's giving arms to the boy.
Yes, now we can make that out. Yeah.
Yeah, can you make that out?
So if you see here, Taz, I don't know if you can come up.
Yeah, I'll
as you
come
get
up.
closer.
I'll come up closer.
The reason why we know that you can see it's defined by the hair.
So yeah.
So it's defined by the hair as well.
So you can see if I go up closer now to the statue, and if I zoom into the hair, there you go. And for the baby that she's carrying.
Yeah. And as we mentioned, Sturge was actually, he went to the West Indies several times. He went to Jamaica. Now, people from Jamaica may have heard of Sturge Town. I'm not even sure if it 100% exists, but the town was named after him because what they used to do was once he was able to help free the slaves, he would then say to them, he sent them to this town that they created for freed slaves as well. Also on the side of here, you'll see charity. Now, it's such a shame. Most people have probably walked past this statue, driven past it, sat in traffic as well. But you can see that plaque there. I'll just let the viewers read it for themselves. He laboured to bring freedom to the Negro slaves, the vote to the British workmen, and the promise of peace to a war won. Yeah. So he was also involved in going across to Russia to try and stop war, the Napoleonic War starting there as well. So this guy was actually around it. He's one of the jewels of Birmingham that we probably all walked past without seeing it as well. And the statue was rededicated in 2007, as you can see in that short time with all the grime and all the traffic around in the air. You can see like this was absolutely crystal clear in 2007, and it's become really dirty again. But people should walk down here and actually look at it, pay homage to it as well. When it was unveiled in 1862, I believe I'm right, there was 12,000 people in this particular area here who came to actually see the unveiling at the time as well. Also, Sturge was involved. He had a factory just on Broad Street, which most people don't know about as well. And he was involved in a school which was called the School of Emancipation, which was in Aston. He was involved in creating that, and this was after one of his visits back from West Indies. He believed that everybody had a right to education as well. So he started this school, which most people don't realise was actually I think it was, is it Healy Street? Healy Street, Aston, or something like that as well. So again, once we're researching into people, we can find out. And it wasn't just him, his whole family was behind this idea. Again, the councillor mentioned like Quakers, all these people coming together, anti-slavery movement as well, and to fight injustices, but not just overseas, in this country as well. And there's so much more we could go into about him as well.
Yeah.
So,
And in addition to that, it's just to note that he also championed for working men to have the vote. So in those days, only people with land and property had the right to vote. Everyday working men didn't have the right to vote. And like he championed what would have now then become the Chartist movement in the 1930s, you know, enabling the working men to be able to work. So the point is that if Black lives matters, everybody's lives matters. You know, the fight for justice is not just a fight for black people, it's a fight for everybody, and that's how everybody benefits from, you know, the struggle, you know, for everybody to have justice. So thanks for that.
Well, thank you, Dawn. So we've come to the end of the walk, but I'm just going to go around and start with our guest, Councillor Wells, to ask a few questions. And what did you make of the walk, Councillor Wells? And did you know some of these points existed here?
Well, the first thing I've learned from this walk is to keep my eyes open and to get out of the car and to come and see things, because I'm now standing by a statue of somebody for whom I now have the most extraordinary respect, Joseph Sturgeon. He's a man who not only did an awful lot for mankind generally, but also had massive principles about education and all the rest of it and so on. So, but the other thing I've learned today is that Edgbaston is just chock full of history. And it's chock full of history if you look for it and if you can find it. So all I can say is massive thanks to you all for the walk. Massive thanks to you all for your patience.
Thank you.
And I can't say I'm going to remember all of this, but it's in my system. And it's been really great to have this. Thank you very much.
Thank you for coming
Thank
with
you.
us today.
So this video will be saved, it will be downloaded, it will be shared on. So if you found this video, please do share it on to others, because we want everyone to learn the history on our doorstep and what's happened here at Edgbaston, and with amazing figures like Ida B. Wells and Joseph Sturge, who stands here gloriously at the Five Ways Marriott Hotel. Brilliant. Marcia, thank you very much. Is there anything you want to end with as well?
Come and join us.
Yep.
Come and join us for a lovely walk.
Yeah, we've got
Regardless of the weather, we'll provide a Mac umbrella and water bottles. Come and join us.
Thank you, Marcia. Gary?
I just want to thank you for taking the time to give us to explore and for us to be able to show you what we do. Black
My
Heritage
pleasure.
Walks Network. You can find us on Google, you can find us everywhere as well. Like I said, come and join us. Even if you just want to start a conversation with us, you can do that through the contact details.
Brilliant.
Thank
So
you.
Gary's giving you an offer there. Maybe the Active Wellbeing Society and the Black Heritage Network walks can collaborate on walks like this in the future.
Absolutely.
Thank you. Dawn, thank you for inviting me
Yeah.
and thank you for all that you do
Yeah,
in
thank
getting
you.
Black Heritage out there for people of Birmingham to understand.
Yeah.
We really appreciate
Well,
it.
we've really enjoyed this season of Black History Month with you and the Active Wellbeing Society. So we want to thank you so much for like taking the interest in the work that we do, and the beautiful heritage within this this city, and and obviously the contribution of the Black community within that process as well. So we really thank you.
Brilliant. I'm just going to end back on the statue of Joseph Sturge. Do find it, do see it, standing here at the glory at the Marriott Hotel here, and then do share this video on. And we're going to all say a bye-bye from us. Take care, guys. A big wave. Bye.